Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 27 of the North Star podcast. We have a returning guest here, Vic Gill, and this episode is going to be really cool because me and Vic are going to chat about New Year's resolutions and just, the things that we have seen over the years that have either worked or things that we have seen people have struggles with. And we just really want to, just give some advice and give some information to people. So if you're struggling to kind of get started and where to get started. So I'm going to have Vic kind of just start it off and see, what he's seen over the years and if there's anything that, we can get the conversation started. So.
Well, thanks for having me again, Jeremy. I think this is going to be a really important episode for a lot of newcomers that want to get back, or even returning people that want to get back into the gym. People's sights and goals and thoughts are starting to turn towards health and fitness. And I always think it's one of those funny things how everyone thinks about it for so long and just, overthinks it almost. And they start setting these crazy dates and, next week on Monday, I'm going to start. And then next week, I'm going to start. And then around this time, it turns into, okay, I'm just going to give myself these 4 or 5 weeks to do whatever I want. And then January, I'm going to go ahead and hit it hard.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most unrealistic things we can set for ourselves is because how are we all of a sudden going to hit a switch on December 31st and turn into this super healthy version of yourself when you have no idea how to be healthy?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like we got to start a little bit sooner to start making smaller changes so we can make a bigger change by then.
Yeah. And I think the big thing too is having a plan that's going to actually be sustainable instead of, having something that, and you've seen it over the years too. It's like somebody's doing maybe no workouts or 1 workout a week, and then they try doing 6 or 7.
Yeah,
and it's kind of and that's usually the burnout. That's where you usually see a lot of people is that 6-week mark. They go really hard for 6 to 8 weeks, and then it's kind of fizzle out because it's just too much right away. But yeah, I think for you over the years, because you've been doing this for a long time, what have you seen to be the most successful someone has been? You've had people, we just actually off camera chatted about some of the people that have been coming from the New Year's kind of rush, and what have you seen them doing that's been successful for them where now they're still coming?
I think one of the most successful things you can do for yourself is, first off, don't plan for 5 to 6 workouts that first week, or even in the first couple of weeks when you don't do any type of resistance training right now. Resistance training, it's hard on the body. You end up being sore, you end up being tight the day afterwards. It takes a lot out of you just to walk around the day afterwards from a workout. So plan for 2 workouts. You got to remember, if you worked out 2 times in this 1 week and you worked out no times the week before that, that's 200% more workouts than you did. That's already a win. Yeah, it's just about kind of listening to your body, planning, setting smaller goals. Let's do 2 workouts this week. Maybe leave your food alone that week, or just be okay, maybe I'll just get used to tracking my calories this week. Instead of being okay, I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to be the healthiest eater out there. I'm going to work out 5 days a week and life's going to be great.
Yeah. Well, and I think that just plays a part of, of having a sustainable approach in the way of trying to find something that is also going to complement your life as well. Not trying to create so many barriers.
Yeah.
Right. So, when you've had people over the years yourself too come in and they're new, have you seen personal training really be beneficial for those kind of people as well?
If you're definitely brand new to the gym and you're nervous about it, you want to know what it's all about, personal training is a great way to get started. And with personal training too, your personal trainer is going to let you know pretty quick, hey, maybe just a couple sessions this week. Let's start off with a couple and then we'll slowly increase volume from there. And even for us, if I get a phone call and somebody wants a brand new person wants an unlimited month, unlimited pass right away, it's that's a bad idea. Let's start off with 20 passes. That should stretch you out over a couple months type of thing, right? Just do 2 a week. You start recovering, you feel good. Let's increase it to 3 a week. And then, there's always little things you can do for yourself at home too, like stretching, mobility, just going for a walk on days in between. That still counts as activity overall. Coming to the gym is very much a luxury item. It's something that, most people are very lucky to come do. It's not the end all if you can't make it there. There's so many other ways to get fitness in. And we got to remember that for those days off when we're first starting off.
Has your perspective on that changed over the years as a coach? Like, were you kind of on the field of like, go really hard at first, like a couple years ago or 10 years ago, or has that shifted for you, or how's that kind of?
I think it's definitely shifted for me, because I can remember times too where I was that New Year's guy.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like I'm going to change everything this New Year's. Like I'm going to be this guy now. And it's like, you see yourself fall off from those goals pretty quick. And I think we're really lucky in the aspect that we get to see everyone else's journeys and we get to hear about it. And that kind of helps us create our own method of doing it after that.
Too.
Yeah. Like for me now, for like a new person, just start off 2 workouts. Like for the food nutrition thing, it's just like, hey, just focus on water and protein. Like,
something.
Just like, keep doing everything else you're still doing. Yeah. Just focus on getting your water in and just start thinking about protein intake and your 2 workouts. Like that's all you need to do. If you can do those 3 things for 2 weeks, let's add in another thing now. And just a slow build up. Like and I think too, just letting everyone know like, hey, like, you might think you're going to lose all this weight and look like this in 6 weeks. You're probably going to look the same, but you're going to feel way different, and you're going to love the feeling of feeling different over how you look. That's what we need to get into our heads is, hey, this is more about the feeling of how we're feeling. And then we'll slowly, the looks will come.
Yeah, I think, it's like kind of focusing on the psychological, and then physical usually comes after.
Yeah.
I think when you're so focused on the physical, your psychological kind of goes down the drain, and then then you also don't. And again, I think it'd be cool that you talk about motivation too, but like my view on motivation is it's awesome when it's there. And it's like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Because everything's easier. But when it isn't there, it's like, what are you going to do? And how are you going to like find your way back? And I think a lot of times people hit that motivation kind of plateau because they're doing too much too quickly. Mm-hmm. How's your shift on motivation been? Is that kind of similar to what you feel about it, or?
I think so. I think and the same thing, starting off slower will help you keep more motivated, because it's easier to meet smaller goals than it is bigger goals.
Yeah.
If you set the expectation of losing 10 pounds in 3 weeks, and now you're getting to like, 2.5 weeks in and you've only really lost like 2 pounds, well, there goes your motivation. Whereas if your motivation was set on just getting to the gym 2 to 3 times a week and that's it, now you're more motivated to keep yourself going.
Yeah, like not have an expectation of like a specific amount right away. I think that too comes with time, right? Because if you're someone who's starting out, you don't want to, like you say, put such a big expectation. And if someone's listening and this is kind of the cycle that you're in, it's most likely because of the amount of time that you are going to the gym is a lot more than you're used to. And it's just like, it's that vicious cycle of going so much and then falling off, then falling off. And we've seen people over the years.
That's it.
And, I even started when I started, I kind of was like that too. So it's finding that balance between the two, right? What I think it would be really cool to chat, what you have been able to build up to your routine, because this is going to tie into for someone to set up and how long you've been doing fitness, but what does your fitness and your nutrition kind of look like as someone who's been doing it for so long, and how long has it taken you to get there? I think showing someone a realistic view of what that looks like will also help someone understand like this takes 10, 15 years to build up to. It wasn't just like yesterday you just like, I'm going to do this, right? So.
I think for me, like, where should I even start this thing? Like, I started working out in high school, and it was like, a million of the wrong things. And I think that's one of the one reasons why I'm so passionate about youth training and hockey training is now I do kind of know, I do know way more than I did back then, but it's all about like, I just want to help that generation out now, just like giving them all the right advice as soon as they can get it. Just having all the right tools, because I worked out wrong for years and years and years. And then, as you slowly start growing and learning more, you start switching up your training and start doing more. I'd say like from 22 to 27 is when I was really motivated with the workouts. Nutrition, I can't say like nutrition always a guessing game for me. It was always like, this is working, that's working, this is working. But at the same time, like being in your 20s and having all that on your side was like, it's kind of a cheat code from there. Yeah. Then 27 is when opened up the fitness lab up here. And that's when stuff started kind of dropping off for me. Because I was just tied into the business so much. Like I was just trying to grab workouts wherever I could. My sleep was horrible. I was, just working long hours all the way throughout the day. And then, next thing you know, 3 years have gone by type of thing. And I'm like, okay, like I kind of need to get back to myself a little bit more than what I'm doing. And I started to focus really on my work, getting back into just making sure that I was getting my workout in and working a little less. And that's actually when you came along too, is around that 2018, 19 marker.
Yeah, 17, 18.
And you knew your nutrition game.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. And I was like training, I got myself back into track, started bugging you a lot more for nutrition advice and helping out with that, and started seeing much more changes, much more quicker. And that's kind of what let's see, that takes us to almost to another 3 years go by. Yeah, I guess another 3 years go by of just, workouts are now dialed in. Everything's feeling good. I'm like, learning so much more about everything and working out too. And just that helps me out in the end. And nutrition's getting better with you. And then Jet was born. And I think that was like my biggest piece of motivation that kind of shifted. And I remember it was like, and like I said, like we're talking about the whole start on Monday, start on this date, start on that thing. It was like this random, it was like October 22nd. I'll remember that because it's in my InBody. And I was like, no, like I'm going to go away and I'm doing this thing today. Like he was born on the 9th and I took off those 4 or 5 weeks, and, we're trying to sort things out at home and having a newborn, and it was that crazy hot summer that year. So, like, we're living at my parents' basement too at the same time because we're building. So it's like all these things are just going like out of whack for us, and diet's just crazy out the window at the time. And I remember I went and did that InBody test. And I'm like, okay, stuff's changing today. Like this is the day that it changes for me.
It's not the next few days. Yeah. It's today.
And then since then, like I have a log upstairs of a diary, weekly loggings of everything from, how I'm doing in my personal life to how I'm doing in my workout life. I make sure that every week I set an intention at the beginning of the week. I check in with myself at the end of the week of how that went. My workouts have been unreal these last 3 years and a bit because, like I said, the previous 10 years going into that type of thing. And nutrition since then as well has just been on another level. But it was definitely just that extra little piece of motivation of, okay, now I'm responsible for this kid and I'm responsible for myself. Mm-hmm. And I got to really make sure I'm trying here.
Yeah. I think that I've seen, like, even we've chatted a little bit here and there over the last 2 years, I would say. And it seems like this is the most attainable and I wouldn't say easy, because any goal that you're maintaining still takes effort. Mm-hmm. But it seems like, at least for you and what we've chatted, like it's been feeling pretty steady. Like it's not something that's unattainable for you right now.
Yeah, no, I definitely, like I said, I was like going into those phases over the years, like, no, like I can do this. I can be under 10% body fat. And then you push your body so hard to get there. And then you all of a sudden see it. And then you bounce out of it 2 weeks later because you're just like, you just can't hold it like that anymore. And so these last 3 years of just like that slow getting into it, making sure it's attainable, then adding in a goal and just building it up like that has really, even like I said, for me, working on my entire life and hearing all those stories like, oh, it takes like 2-3 years to get the body you want, this and that, and being like, kind of doubting that, to now living it and being like, holy, like this took me 3 years to get here. Like I'm not messing this up for anything now. Like this is like, it actually took me 3 years to have everything the way I want it. And like that was through a lot of still ups and downs throughout that, but it's the most attainable now after these 3 years of really pushing it.
Well, and you live and breathe fitness.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what I was trying to tell, is like, even the people that are living and breathing fitness, it takes them a while, right? So imagine someone who doesn't have all the resources, doesn't have all the information. It might take you longer than you expect.
Yeah. You'll make tons of mistakes along the way.
But that's okay.
That's okay. At least you know what not to do after that, right? Yeah.
Well, and that's like, and your journey, even we'll look back, it's like 15 years, right? It's like a little bit ups and downs. You got to a place where, you know, you felt comfortable, but then things other happen, and it's just like, and it's okay. And I think, you know, with anyone trying to learn something, they have to also unlearn some stuff at the same time. Right?
Definitely.
New things, and always new things are going to come out. But would you say, like, at this point though, I know we've chatted too, but you feel like you're eating the most, you feel like the body's like good. Like, what are you starting to notice with that last shift of the 3 years?
It's now I'm almost like it's crazy. It's like you hear all those things like how you got to push yourself so hard and how you got to like break yourself and like, you know, no pain, no gain. Really, that's not the case, right? Like, it's like treat your body properly. That's what it is. Like, when it needs a rest, it needs a rest. Like, don't go push it past what it needs. Like, it actually comes down to just giving it that perfect amount of everything of, you know, you don't need to be in the gym 5 days a week pushing that red zone. Like, no, that's not how it's done. You need the proper amount of workouts in lower levels to medium levels to high levels. So it's just about the more education that I'm giving myself and knowing how to develop the perfect plan, the easier and easier it seems to be getting right now.
Well, and then it's easier to teach too.
And then it's easier to teach as well.
When you go through it. I think, you know, there's things that I've heard too, like other coaches talking about, you know, like you said, the 2-3 years you get there is challenging and things, but once you get there, it's easier to maintain when you can, like, you don't have to be, again, you don't have to be crazy in the gym or anything. You can send the stimulus to the muscle to like be able to keep the muscle you have without doing so much work to get there.
Exactly.
But it's getting there first and but also being okay with it, that it takes time.
Yeah.
So I think that ties in with a lot with the New Year's resolution, because I think when people go into it, they are like, oh, this is going to be a 3-month stint. Yeah. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
this is a whole life thing. Yeah. Like, if you're starting today, you want to commit for the next, your whole life. Like, it's not just a 1 month. So
yeah. Or like to get to that vacation that you have planned in March, or like, it's like, you know, if you're going to do this, like, let's make sure we do this for life type of thing, right? Just start off slow. And that's what it is. Like, don't think about the next 3 months. Let's think about the next 3 years.
Yeah.
So these first 3 months, let's just, you know, get your feet wet a little. Like, let's go ahead and just pick up some strength training, figure out what type of strength training you even like. That's the other thing. It's like, you know, is group fitness good for you? No. Do you want to go to the gym yourself? Okay. If you go to the gym yourself now, how are you going to work out? What are your workout routines going to be? Like, there's a lot of stuff that we almost need to consider beforehand before we can even say that we're in fitness.
Well, and I think tying into that, you also have to ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice to look how you want to look like? I think that's a big question too, because I think a lot of us see this image online or whoever you compare to, but also not knowing kind of what someone's gone through to get to that place. You know, being like, let's say we're talking about a male being 10 to 15% body fat. It's not impossible, but you're going to definitely need to change things in your life to get to that point.
For sure.
And with females, you know, that's obviously different body fat percentage wise, but, you know, if we're looking at the in-body scale, it's like usually the 28% is right in the middle, roughly, right? So it's just kind of getting to a point where you're also happy with where you are, but also what are you willing to take away or add if you want to get to that point? And I think being honest with yourself too is a big thing with the goal.
Being honest with yourself, and at the same time not comparing yourself with others and your old self. Like, I still, like, when I get those guys coming into me and they're like, yeah, or like when I was in high school, I lost 15 pounds in like a matter of 2 months. This is what I did. It's like, okay, well, that's when you were in high school and you're 45 now. It's not going to work like that. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, but, you know, I'll just get in the gym and my muscle memory will kick in. It's like, oh, that's not what muscle memory is, and that's not what's going to happen type of thing here. I think a lot of people just draw these comparisons of what other people tell them to do. Like, oh, I lost 10 pounds in 2 weeks. I did this. And everyone's right away like, oh, I want to do what he did or what she did. And that's not like how it works. And those people that do lose their 10 pounds in 2 weeks, well, talk to me in 2 more weeks and 7 pounds is probably going to come back by then.
Yeah. And that going off of that is like, usually the quicker you lose it, the quicker it comes back.
I know that's one thing that everyone hates to hear. Is 1 pound a week is sustainable.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that's 4 pounds a month. Like, I'm not going to do this. And I got 30 pounds to lose and I can only lose 4 a month.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Like a pound a week is sustainable fat loss. And if you want to keep this thing going, that's all you should really aim for.
Well, and that's the thing, because if you're going off, and it also too, like, you know, I think I like a percentage base, and you've probably heard this too, like either 0.5 to 1.5% of your body weight a week is usually, depending on, you know, we have to look at like how much does somebody have to lose as well, right? If you have somebody who only needs to lose 15 pounds or somebody who needs to lose 80 pounds, well, the person that is probably going to have 80 pounds of fat to lose, they're going to lose a little bit quicker at first, and that's normal. That's like very normal thing. But it just, for me, it's like, you know, I like the comment you made about, you know, what you used to do versus what you're going to do now. And that changes a lot. Yeah. Because you had said with your story, like being in your 20s, you could get away with a little bit more, things like that. And as you kind of gone through, you're able to be like, oh, okay, I know this doesn't work for me. I can't be pushing myself this much if my sleep's not good.
Yeah, exactly. And that was huge too, just like the sleep markers and how your body just performs and what it does. And man, like I'm telling you, those first 3 years of owning the gym, just like nutrition and gym workouts were not happening. And I lived in the gym like 15, 16 hours a day. I couldn't work out. And that's crazy to think about. So it's like, I totally sympathize with people that say they don't have time to work out or they can't build it into their routine yet, because it's like, yeah, like I said, I've been in the gym for 15 hours straight and I didn't have time to work out. So I get it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, maybe if I just go to sleep 20 minutes earlier at night, wake up 20 minutes earlier in the morning, pop on a YouTube video and just follow along with that. Yeah. Like there's so much content and stuff out there now to get fitness started right away that I think you're damaging yourself by coming up with these unrealistic goals of being able to do it in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks. Like, just do it now. Yeah. Just go for a walk right now outside. Like, well, you're good.
Well, and I think that's the piece that's missing for a lot of people is, you know, it doesn't have to be an hour workout to be working in the direction that you want to be working.
Yeah.
I think there's that like kind of, I guess you could say, cliche of like it has to be this or it has to look like this, but it's honestly whatever it looks like, it's going to have to look like what fits in your lifestyle.
Yeah.
So if you're, you know, we talked a lot about story and where people would get started, but you know, let's say you have someone who comes to you and they're like, Vic, you know, I've never worked out in my life, I want to get started. Where would you start them? I know you said like start 2 days a week, but like I think I'm more specific because people that are listening that are just starting out, I think it would be cool to have like a little bit of a plan, maybe like give some tips on what classes to take, or you know, where should they start with maybe like a nutrition thing or their cardio, their strength. Like where would you just start someone that's super beginner?
I think if it's somebody that's really beginner, it comes down to first finding a place that you want to go. So, you know, call everyone in town, get your free trials there, figure out what they do for intro classes, go check everything out. Like that alone can take you like 2 to 3 weeks just to get around to all the places in town and just, you know, rule out the ones, okay, this isn't for me, this is for me, or I like this, or, you know, it might even come down to you come to the gym and you're like, oh, I'm not into training like weights really, but you know, you go try a boxing class and you're like, oh, like this is awesome for me. I like boxing. Well, it's cool. It's like, maybe you should just stick with boxing for the first 2 to 3 weeks, see what that does for you before you add in anything else. Because when you're a beginner, the nice thing is anything will work. Like literally, you can
just moving your body is good.
Just going from a total area of rest and not getting your heart rate up to doing anything is gonna make changes for you, right? Like you could even just be like, oh, I'm just gonna go to the track and walk 5 laps one day. Next day, you're like, oh, I'm gonna do 8 laps today, and you know, that's fitness. You're working on something now and you're getting better from that, and your body's going to start making changes with that alone. So for a super beginner, it just comes down to get out there. First off, find out what you like. Like it's not a have to you come to the fitness lab. It's not a have to you go to Good Life Fitness. It's not, you know, you can go anywhere you want. You can pick 2 to 3 places and go to all 2 to 3 places, but just find what you're most comfortable with, find what your body likes to do and what you enjoy doing. And then let's go from there. Once you get that thing straightened out, then it's, start focusing on nutrition. And nutrition can even just come down to, download MyFitnessPal, start tracking your calories, right? Like just don't even change your eating. Just log what you've been eating so far, right? Like just start with that. And then from there, you can start seeing holes in your plan. Like, oh, I'm not getting enough protein in. Well, let's find out how much protein you need to get in now, right? It's like, oh, I'm not getting enough water in. Well, water's readily available everywhere we go. Let's start getting that in. I think those 3 things go the longest way for a beginner. Find a place for fitness, water intake, protein intake. That's it. Start with that. Once you got that dialed in for those 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, now let's start adding in a little more goals based on performance. Like how many times are we going to the gym? What are we doing in the gym? And then, of course, from there, food, like you've seen it, like what's sustainable? Are you a Monday to Thursday night super clean eater, and then all of a sudden Friday, Saturday, Sunday rolls around and you probably ate way more calories than you needed to?
Well, I think it's cool because I want you to also touch a little bit on your experience with people coming to see a coach, because I know there's going to be some people out there that are going to hire a coach, and what have you seen, the barriers that you've been able to help with someone versus someone not using a coach? And I think either way is fine, but I think it's also good for people to understand what a coach or what someone can do to help with your accountability.
I think we see it like for us, especially with the group fitness environment, is the accountability aspect of not only having a coach there, but also having a class behind you, right? If you see it, like if it's the same time slot, you miss a day, people ask where you were. Hey, where were you the other day? Like we did this in our workout, right? Yeah. So I think that's really nice for the accountability aspect. Having a coach goes a long way just with having your workouts change. Mm-hmm. Like we got to keep switching up what we're doing in our workouts in order for it to keep working. So if you are the one that's like, hey, I'm just going to go to Good Life and work out myself. Well, what you do the first week, it might be a really easy pattern for you to do that again week 2 and then week 3. And then you start guessing yourself on what weight to lift, how many reps should you be doing, and you really don't end up with a plan. So even though you're going to the gym and just burning calories on the machines and whatever else you're doing, you're really not getting the full benefit of a workout and what it can do. Whereas having a coach will help you like, no, this is the weight you're going to lift. These are how many reps you're going to do. These are the muscle groups we're going to do today. So the results are much more drastic with a coach than without a coach. And I think that's one, or like, even a plan, like just get a plan online and that'll help you out through it. So having a plan and a coach is very important for getting all the benefits of a workout.
One, I'm going to say this very carefully, but I also think it gets you there quicker.
Yes, no, for sure.
But I want to say it carefully in the way of like, I'm not saying like it's a quick fix. It's more of like, because now all the information is just already given to you. Instead of just it being like, okay, well, what do I do? It's like, no, you do this. This is what you do. This is this. You don't have to worry about it. So I think that's also, I just want to touch on that because, for people that either has the means to it, it's financial or the time, I think a coach is really beneficial. And I am a coach, so I do have a little bit of a bias of it, but I also know that it's not just a coach in the fitness. It could be any kind of coach.
Any type of coach,
anyone can kind of teach you and keep you accountable. So
got a friend that's a trainer, or like even like I said, you can download a million free plans on the thing, right? Like just get a plan. That's it. Just get a week layout. And once you have that week layout, just stick with it. There's an endless supply of content out there. Everyone saying that their content is the best and it'll get you there the quickest. Yeah. But in the end, it just comes down to putting your time into the gym, progressively loading the exercises, and you're going to get results. Like they all work in the end as long as you do them properly. Like don't all of a sudden switch gears out of one plan into another plan because somebody said, oh, this one works better. Just, follow yours out for 4 or 5 weeks, get a new plan.
Yeah.
Great.
See how you feel.
Yeah. 4 or 5 weeks, you like it, cool. Go to the next one and just keep working like that.
I think that, like you said, it's sticking, just giving yourself enough time to actually see some results.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like week 1 and 2, you're like, oh my, I should have been 20 pounds down already.
Yeah.
It's like, give it like 5 weeks, like you said, and see if there's a change. If not, then switch something up.
Yeah.
Right. On the back end of that and going about, someone starting out, I really wanted to touch on being able to, have some resources, or what are some things that you think someone beginning out would really need, if that's like a friend to go to the gym with, if that's, I know we talked about having a coach. Are there any other little things that you've seen that have really helped someone kind of stay with it for the accountability part?
I think the friend accountability system is awesome. If you got a friend that's also, not so much struggling with you, but, a friend that also needs the same push as you,
mm-hmm.
pair up. Like, it makes going to the gym so much easier just knowing that you're going there with somebody, or even like, your spouse, your significant other. Just having somebody to go with you will be the biggest accountability piece, I find. And I think that's what it is with the coach too. It's build that same accountability when you're visiting the same coach every day, mm-hmm. or you're going to the same class every day and seeing the same people in class. Yeah, I think the people aspect is huge. It's very easy to not, some people are motivated to go to the gym themselves and work out. And I find those people are the people that have already been working out for a long time.
Yeah, they've done it for a long time.
They've done it for a long time. They almost don't know any different, and it works for them and good for them to mm-hmm. keep at it. But for a beginner, an accountability partner is huge. Yeah, definitely just having somebody there will motivate you to go, will keep pushing you to go. And at the same time, it adds that little bit of, like that challenge in there. Like, oh, like, I don't want them to get results quicker than me. Like, I got to keep going too. They're going to get skinnier than me.
Yeah. Well, I think too, it's, going back to going somewhere, wherever it is you have to also enjoy the place mm-hmm. you go to. Because we've talked about this. It's like in the last podcast, actually, we talked about, having someone coming to the gym is like one of those things where not many industries you see someone 5-6 times
mm-hmm.
a week. Like,
yeah.
You don't go for your haircut every single
mm-hmm.
day, but you might go to the gym. So being also someone or finding someone that you can relate to, but also enjoy being around is really important too.
Super important. Yeah.
Right.
You got to feel like home there, because it is 5-6 days a week. You might be stopping there.
Yeah. I wanted to also touch a little bit on someone that, we talked about someone that's totally brand new, totally like hasn't really done much and wants to start. But what about people that are trying to get back onto the wagon?
Yeah.
I think that's a really good one too to kind of chat, because I know I've even been there.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've live and breathe it. I do it for a living.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some things that you've seen to get someone back, and you've had probably reoccurring clients over the years that have done this? What has been something that you've seen to help them be successful getting back?
I think it's important for those people to hear from us. I think that's one of the biggest things, is like when they hear from one of us and it's like, oh, like, I miss you. Like, I need you back in class. Yeah. That's the first thing, is like, oh, like, I've been thinking about it and I need to get back. And for those people that do kind of bounce in and out, they know how hard it is to get back at it. So it's almost like a double barrier of like, oh, like, I got to do this all over again. Now I got to go back. And then it's like you're not very motivated while you're in there, because you pick up a weight and you're like, oh, I used to do this for 10 and now I can't even do it for 4. And, it's just quick things like that keep unmotivating you. Yeah. It's very defeating in the aspect of knowing like, hey, this is coming up. And I know for like, one of my clients, I could probably show you 8 years of messages on our text thread of her every New Year's being like, this is the year, Becky. Like, we're going to do this year. Like, we joke about this all the time, because, I probably hear from her 4 times a year. It's her comeback time. That she'll fall off again and she keeps coming back. But it's like, she keeps trying. That's one of the biggest things, is she keeps trying. She keeps trying to get back at it. She knows it's good for her. but other things are always going to get in the way.
Yeah.
And like I said, like maybe next year when we do the same podcast at this time, maybe I'll have better news for you. Like she's more sustainable this year. But I think that's one of the biggest things is those people know how hard it is. But every day that you're not coming again, it's just going to get that much harder for you.
Well, my compassion has definitely changed.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I shouldn't say that I wasn't compassionate before, but I didn't understand really until I started helping people that it's not just like, sometimes it's not just easy for someone to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Like and I'm not saying that's also an excuse for someone not to come in, but like, you don't understand, I think, sometimes what other people go through and their life. And for me, like the biggest thing is like the compassionate piece coming in is being like, just try to, like, even if you come for 30 minutes, like, you know, maybe you had planned an hour, but just come for 30.
There's this Family Guy episode where Peter starts going to the gym and he goes and comes back. And as soon as he walks into the door, it's like his first day in the gym and he's already wearing cutoffs and he thinks he's this big buff guy. And Brian says, "Oh, you've been gone for 10 minutes. And he looks at Brian, he's like, "But I'm 10 minutes stronger than yesterday." Like that's been stuck in my head since. I'm like, it's true. Like he just went to the gym for 10 minutes, but that's 10 more minutes than he's ever gone to the gym before this. Yeah. Like that's a win for him. And I mean, clearly he was feeling himself. That's
funny. No, going back to like, even having people that are kind of come back and forth, it's like, even if it's, and maybe the word simple isn't the right word, but even if it's you coming once a week, every week, instead of it being like, okay, 1 week you come once and then the next week you skip and then the week after you come back and then you skip, like it just could be literally coming once a week for a month. Yep. And that could just be the start of where you go, right? Yep. But it's interesting that I never really thought about the defeating piece as, you know, when you go back and you lift a weight and you're like, oh, I used to be able to do like 10 reps, but I can only do 4, because for a beginner, they don't know the difference.
They don't know the difference. It's all new to them. So they're like, okay, this is where I'm starting and it's only up from here.
Yeah. Yeah. I never it just kind of clicked for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, no, I just, you know, I think the big picture for us having this too, I'd like you to add after, was just to give proper information on building a habit. And this doesn't even just mean the New Year's resolution. This is literally like a podcast where you could even do if you're wanting to start today. Yeah. Right. It doesn't have to be the New Year, but we wanted to make it a podcast that is around the New Year, because we see so many people do that kind of that vicious cycle of stop, go, and that's really hard on the body. That's the other part. It's tough on the body just to kind of completely go like, just completely go like super healthy for that 1-2 days, and then, you know, you go right back to your old habits for day 3-4, and then you think you can kind of make a bounce back, and, you know, mentally too at the same time, it's horribly draining for you. Yeah. It's just best to kind of set those smaller goals, just ease your way into it and add things in. It's better to add things in than take things out. Yeah. Well, and that's the whole like premise of it is adding something to make it more beneficial rather than taking something out and trying to always like be in that restrictive kind of mindset. It's like adding more protein, adding a 20-minute walk, adding more vegetables, adding more fruit. Like it's things that are going to create a little bit more of a positive change too. Yep. So, all right, Vic, my last question for you. What are some goals that you have, that we're talking about goals and resolutions? Is there anything coming up for you that's kind of going to shift, or any goals that you have that, you know, people want to hear about? I know people love to hear about your stuff. So I think for me, it's been, like I said, since Jet was born and I started just kind of that random October time, there's been no real like resolution time for me. It's just kind of been like, you know, as I see goals come up, I just right away, I'm like, okay, this is what's happening. I just get into it right away. And I think that's been my biggest shift in mentality, is just no more waiting. Like it's like, just start thinking small right away, and you're building towards that goal that you have right away.
For me, just for like my physical goals now, I'm lucky enough to be in a spot where I'm like, okay, I'm like really happy with where I'm at. But now I can start making a little bit more of an approach into like, okay, like now start dialing in the weight gain. Like now I want to start looking a little different, but this is going to take a lot more work to get there because it's a lot easier to lose, I find, than it is to gain the other way. So now I'm going to start shifting my focus more towards that end of things.
Cool.
Yeah. I think it just comes down to, you know, performance wise, I have tons of stuff. Like performance wise, I'm like, you know, I want to run this fast. I want to be able to do this drill in this much time. And as years go on now and, you know, technology and stuff's getting so much better, you hear about all these pro athletes and their scores and what they do and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like, okay, like I want to get close to these guys, right? Like, even though I'll never maybe even make it close to them, I was like, it's just going to make a good run at being like, okay, like, let's see how close we can get to these things now. Yeah. So for me, it's just getting down to like performance. Like I'm always bugging Lana. I'm always like, yeah, like I want Jet to be like 30 years old and just scared of me. Like, oh, man, like Dad's coming to play football. He's going to kill us. like I just want him to be worried for his entire athletic career of what I'm going to do.
Just outperform.
Yeah, just outperform him at all costs.
That's funny.
Yeah. I think that's where the main drive is right now.
That's hilarious. I think it's cool though. You're so good at that performance stuff. I do have, actually I'm lying. I do have another question. It's a selfish question for me because I really want to know, and I know this is coming up here, and we're going to be having our 10-year anniversary coming up at Stave, and I just want to know how that makes you feel, and like how that, you know, like what does that mean to you? Like what is it?
It's unreal. Like 10 years. I know. I'm just like blown away that this date's even coming up. Even in my phone, I had a memory pop up at the beginning of November. That's when the gym lease was signed, was in like November 2014. And that's when we kind of started looking at the spot to build it out to have it ready for January. And it's just like the total shift and how everything's gone since then. And, you know, shift in training, shift in mentality, and like so lucky to even be at the 10-year marker. I remember that first year, I was just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to have a sick place to work out for a year until it shuts down. Like, I don't even know what's going on here, really. And just to like have made it this far and have grown into this thing that it is now, it's unbelievable. And I think that's one of the biggest things is for me to keep this thing going. It's important to remember that, you know, we're not just for clients, we're also for trainers. And I think that's what really separates us from everybody else, is that we're a place for trainers to showcase who they are also. I'm not going to make trainers do anything like one of the bigger franchises, like this is how you have to teach classes. This is a class we're teaching all day. It all comes down to variety and helping trainers grow at the same time helping our clients grow. And I think that's one of the things that has kept us going over the years, is how everybody just wants to grow in the right direction. And like I said, the clients, them coming in, that's important to our growth. Learning how to deal with them, learning how to help them. And yeah, so for 10 years, I'm super pumped for the next 10 to see what happens. Yeah.
I think the cool thing too is like the amount, and I'll say it too, but thanks for all the people that have supported over the...
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, it's impossible without the people. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
And even just the amount of people that are still there.
Still there. Like my mornings, I absolutely love, like, it's insane. Like we're 10 years at this spot. And I even have some clients that came from me from the leisure center before that. So we're going on to like 14 years of training together. And it's like the best thing in the world that I can wake up and go spend my time with these people away every morning. Friends. Yeah, they're absolutely like my friends. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the more time that you think of it, you've spent how many hours with these people?
Exactly, right? Like at least 5 hours a week right there.
And it's perspective. Like I don't think that's a big thing that with the training part, is that perspective of like how much time you actually spend with someone. And then you build a relationship, and you build friendships, right? And you build, like, it's super cool. So, well, thanks for answering that. Because I was like, I wanted to kind of throw that in because it was with the new year and all the things. But we got some exciting stuff coming too for the new year with Stave and all the locations. I think I'm really excited for January because we got some fun stuff planned. So.
Yeah.
stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Vic, is there anything you want to kind of end off with? Any last words? Or?
Like I said, I'm always happy to talk to anybody out there that is trying to build a plan to get going, right? Like our info at thefitnesslab.ca will get you any of your questions answered. Just give us a shout. We'll help you out. We'll set up a plan. We can show you an easier approach than what you've built it up to already in your head.
Yeah.
So give us any time. Like, why wait till the new year? Just message us tomorrow, today, whatever, right?
Yeah,
like
whatever
we'll get you started right away. It's real easy.
Well, it's a good place to end it. Thank you so much, Vic. I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for listening and listening to, well, I guess kind of part 2. There's second time around, but episode 27 of the North Star podcast. Sweet.
Cool.
Good. 157.
Nice.